Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitan Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Guruve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Prabhajantam Anupetya Apetya Krityam Rapayana Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putati Tan Mayataya Tadavo Binedus Tam Savabhutam Hridayam Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Naruttamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshay Kiptascha Kamari Tarangamadye Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanadavindam Tavevasmi Najivami Tvayavina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. So, we're going to continue here in the beautiful Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we will first offer our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalita Bhavishta, Om Vishnupad Asta Tarsat Sri Srimad Abhaya Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, and unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalita Bhavishta Om Vishnupad Asta Tarsat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, under our exalted Rupanuga Guru Varga and all the Sambhu Vaishnavas Vaishnavis. So now we've been hearing abbreviated pastimes of Mahaprabhu, some that are in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, and he's just touching on them lightly, and some which are not even in that. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat itself, Vrindavan Thakur says these pastimes will be covered in much more detail, much more depth, when Vedavyas comes the next time and writes the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Srimad Bhagavatam with all its 90 chapters, or 10th canto with 90 chapters, and then how long will the Chaitanya Charitamrita part be? It'll be like that. So much detail. It'll be really exciting. So do we want to take birth then so we can read that? Not me. I want to take birth in Mahaprabhu's Leela and see it personally and skip the Kali Yuga. But hey, if we're asked to come and we're qualified, then no harm, right? And if we've been part of Mahaprabhu's pastimes, then how wonderful to actually be able to share that in a Bhagavatam. How big would the Bhagavatam be then? Imagine. Whew. Any rate. So, Ekdina Prabhu Vishnu Madape Vishya Madhu Ana Palane Dakiya. One day the Lord sat down in the corridor of a Vishnu temple and began calling very loudly, "Bring some honey, bring some honey." This has happened more than once. He goes into this mood of Baladev, calling for honey. Varuni, right? Special nectar coming from the trees in Vrindavan, Kalpavriksha trees, which has a transcendentally intoxicating effect. What would that be? Our intoxication diminishes, dulls us, gives us this a little bit of sense of relief from our pain, but mostly it's a dulling thing, right? But this excites moods of prem and love. And Jai Jai Shri Shri Radha Radhamanju Ki Jai Shrimati Lalita Vishaka Rupamanjari Ratumanjari Adi Satya Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev Ki Jai. Is that all the lights we have? We need more lights. Anyway, so Nityananda Prabhu Goswami, understanding the ecstatic mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, brought a pot of Ganga water as a token and put it before him. After drinking the water, Lord Chaitanya became so ecstatic that he began to dance. Thus, everyone saw the pastime of attracting the river Jamuna. Oh, Srila Prabhupada explains that this Jamuna Karshana Leela is the pastime of attracting the Jamuna. One day, Sri Baladev wanted the Jamuna river to come before him, and when the river Jamuna refused, he took his plow, wanting to dig a canal so that Jamuna would be obliged to come there. Since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the original form of Baladev, in his ecstasy he asked everyone to bring honey. In this way, all the devotees standing there saw the Jamuna Karshana Leela. So they were, Baladev and his gopis were dancing when Baladev had come to Vrindavan. And in that ecstasy, they were drinking Varuni, and he called Jamuna, and this is Kalindi Jamuna. And she ostensibly was thinking, oh, they're intoxicated, I can't go there, they're just foolishly intoxicated. Baladev becomes very angry and threatened to divide her, not just into a canal, but to thousands of streams, and he began to carve like that. Baladev was accompanied by his girlfriends. After drinking a honey beverage called Varuni, he wanted to jump into the Jamuna and swim with the girls. It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, 65th chapter, 25 through 30 and 33, that Lord Baladev asked the Jamuna to come near, and that when the river disobeyed the order of the Lord, he became angry and thus wanted to snatch her near to him with his plow. The Jamuna, however, very much afraid of Lord Balaram's anger, immediately came and surrendered unto him, praying to the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and admitting her fault. She was then excused. This is the sum and substance of the Jamuna Karshana Leela. The incident is also described in the prayer of Jayadev Goswami concerning the 10 incarnations. Vahasi vapusi vishade vasanam jaladabam halahati biti milita yamunabam keshavadrita haladara rupa jaya jagadisha hare. Right. When the Lord, in his ecstasy of Baladev, was moving as if intoxicated by the beverage, Advaitacharya, the chief of the Acharyas, saw him in the form of Balaram. Vanamali Acharya saw a golden plow in the hound of Balaram, and the devotees all assembled together and danced, overwhelmed by ecstasy. Again, we're getting an example of Mahaprabhu's special bhav, special ecstasies when he appeared here. He came to obviously taste the mood of the devotees, right? But he also was tasting the mood of his own incarnations, manifesting those as well. So in this way, they danced continuously for 12 hours, and in the evening, they all took a bath in the Ganga and then returned to their homes. The Lord ordered all the citizens of Nabadwipa to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and in each and every home they began performing Sankirtan regularly. Hare Namha Krishna Jadavaya Namaha Gopal Govindaram Sri Madhusudan. All the devotees sang this popular song along with the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Nama Krishna Jadavaya Namaha Gopala Govindaram Sri Madhusudan. And that's been adapted as a bhajan also. In fact, In the Chaitanya Bhagavats described that when Mahaprabhu first began to teach his students, they were the first ones that he took out publicly on Sankirtan, and this is what they were chanting. When the Sankirtan movement thus started, no one in Nabadwipa could hear any sound other than the words Hari Hari and the beating of the mrdanga and the clashing of handbells. Wow. Purport. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness now has its World Center in Nabadwipa, Mayapur. The managers of this center should see that 24 hours a day there is chanting of the holy names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with the addition of Haraye Namaha Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. For this song was a favorite of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's. So when he translated this, the Nabadwipa first building had been completed. They're not completed yet in Vrindavan. They had not been established yet. So he called this his World Center. What did he say? He said, Mumbai, Bombay is my place of business, Mayapur is my place of bhajan, and Vrindavan is my home. That's what Srila Prabhupada said. But for the worldwide preaching mission, Mayapur, of course. So he goes on to say that aside from the devotees chanting Hare Krishna mantra and this Haraye Nama Krishna, but all such Sankirtan must be preceded by the chanting of the holy names of the five tattvas, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Sri Vas Adigaur Bhaktivinoda. Right? We are already accustomed to chant these two mantras, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Sri Vas Adigaur Bhaktivinoda, and Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, after these, the other two lines, namely, Haraye Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha, Gopala Govindaram Sri Madhusudan, should be added, especially in Mayapur. Chanting of these 6 lines should go on so perfectly well that no one there hears any vibration other than the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. That will make the center spiritually all perfect. A very significant instruction here. Srila Prabhupada is giving the template for establishing within the center, within one's own heart, the spiritual power of realizing the holy name itself, this methodology, this process for the Kali Yuga, but also this eternal method in the heart of all devotees to always be absorbed in chanting the holy names and being with the Lord. When will that day come? Binat van nama nami no, when we realize that Krishna and his name are non-different. When does it come? It comes in Madhyam. And in the Kanishta stage, we're chanting with intent, with faith, with focus. But when we come into Madhyam and we awaken, by the mercy of our acharyas, the pure name, right? Shuddhanam. And it begins when we were in Bangalore many, many years ago. Gurudev had come to visit, and he was out first at this place that had been purchased by Dandi Maharaj. And so he was staying out there, and we went to visit him. And we were just sitting on this little porch out there. And he talked about that process. And he said that in the beginning, you'll just be chanting Nam Aparad. But if you chant more and more, Right? And this is also the instruction of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Gurudev was completely immersed in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He's not making anything up. And he says, oh, first that, but that it seems quite dangerous because Namaparad can destroy all opportunity for bhakti, right? But if you continually chant, take shelter of that holy name with faith, then gradually Namabhas will come. And Namabhas is purifying in that it begins to remove great amounts of sin and it clears anarthas, right? And he said that gradually more and more Namabhas, less and less Namaparad, until there's no more Namaparad. And then one day, chanting only Namabhas, he said, one Shuddhanam may arise. And then that's the beginning of everything. Right? And then gradually, Shuddhanam plus Namabhas, then more and more Shuddhanam, less and less Namabhas, till you're only chanting Shuddhanam. And that is real Madhyam. In the beginning, when Ruchi is first established, you have taste for the holy name. You develop a very sweet taste for all the limbs of bhakti, although you may be inclined in one way or other. Some people are inclined by speaking, some people are inclined by serving, some people are inclined by hearing and remembering, different qualities according to the sadhak. But all of them become imbued with taste, right? And then gradually, the taste for the limbs of bhakti themselves mature. And you begin to awaken a taste for the object of bhajan. In other words, the reality of Sri Krishna and his name being non-different begins to awaken in your heart. The nature of the deity and the holy name being non-different begin to awaken. And the inclination to serve Krishna in a particular way, following in the footsteps of particular devotees, begins to awaken. Right? So when you come to Madhyam, right now we're in Kanishta stage, and in San Francisco Bay Area in Pleasant Hill, Gurudev gave a program one Ekadashi night. He came to San Francisco and he's going to Badger the next day, New Brunch. But that night he gave a lecture. And it was a kind of a warning. He said, this stage of Kanishta, unless you are serious about coming to Madhyam, you can stay on this platform for hundreds of lifetimes, making a little progress, coming down, making little progress, coming down, right? You have to make a concerted effort, by the chanting, by service, by not offending Vaishnavas, not criticizing, avoiding 10 offenses. You have to really work hard at this point to come to Madhyam, right? He says, once you come to Madhyam, you'll gallop. You'll gallop because then you're chanting Shuddhanam. And the process goes very quickly. And then you're also not so inclined to commit offense. Right now, in this mentality, deeply situated in bodily and mental consciousness, we're always at odds with others, finding fault with this one, finding fault with that one, not recognizing the Vaishnavata within. Pure devotees, why are they so compassionate, so kind, so encouraging? Because they see the soul. They see us as a soul. And they see even the slightest awakening. They appreciate that so much. And they encourage us like loving parents. But we're not like that. We see, even if somebody's very pure, if we see the slightest, what we consider a defect, we point that out. Srila Prabhupada used to say, Vaishnavas are like a white sheet. And so even the slightest spot of ink, if you're inclined in that way, you'll look at that. He said, but we should not do that. Right? But here now, Mahaprabhu is creating this culture of this chanting. And this is our methodology. Srila Prabhupada is revealing it. And he's saying this is what we should do at our centers. So he's saying about the Mayapur center, but actually, according to capacity, every center throughout the world. So his centers, when he started them, there was morning artik, then gradually Guru Puja was introduced, evening artik. But all day Nagar Sankirtan was going on. And that was very powerful, especially for the devotees themselves. It put us in an amazing state. We may not have been capable of sitting in one place silently, quietly chanting, but we could go out and run up and down the streets all day chanting and doing little parades and little formations and, handing out magazines to people. And, it was just very exciting every day. This is the process. So, what happened then? Shuniyaye krutohela sakala yavana, Kaji, Pashe, Ashisabe, Koila, Nivedana, hearing the resounding vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra, the local Muslims, greatly angry, submitted a complaint to the Kazi. Right. So the local magistrate, city magistrate, Srila Prabhupada said, was called the Kaji, or the Kazi. And the jamidars, samajars, or landholders, levied taxes on the land, but keeping law and order and punishing criminals was the duty entrusted to the Kazi. But of course, the Kazi was enforcing Muslim law. And they tolerated the Hindus as long as they didn't make an external show. Sharia law, that was what they would do. Both the Kazi and the landholders were under the control of the governor of Bengal, who at that time was known as Subabangala. These are real historical personalities. You can look them up in Wikipedia even. One time I looked up what's his name? The Kazi, the governor that Rupa and Sanatan served, Nawab Hussain Shah. He's in Wikipedia. It's amazing. This is real history. This is not so far back that, archaeologists say, we have no evidence of this. This is just some, hagiography. No, this is really going on. What's interesting in Wikipedia talks about this Nawab Hussain Shah, and it says that he actually became favorable to the Vaishnavas and facilitated the translation of certain Sanskrit texts like Mahabharata into local languages. He was quite inimical in the beginning, quite a demon, traveling, conquering, destroying temples. But his ministers were Sanatan, Rupa, and Anupam. And by their association, he changed, right? So, the districts of Nadia, Islampura, and Bogyana were all under the zamindar named Harihoda, or his descendants known as Hoda Krishnadas. It is said that Chand Kazi was the spiritual master of Nawab Hussain Shah. What? Wow. Chand Kazi is the one that we're going to hear about Mahaprabhu. He made him into a pure Vaishnava. So there it is. According to one opinion, his name was Maulana Sirajuddina. And according to another, his name was Habibara Rahman. Descendants of Chand Kazi are still living in the vicinity of Mayapur. People still go to see the tomb of Chand Kazi, which is underneath a champak tree and is known as Chand Kazi Samadhi. We go there. Every time we go there, we get to tell the story. I oftentimes get called on to tell the story. So do it very dramatically, right? Which the story we're going to hear. Wonderful. So also, this Nawab Hussain Shah had the great opportunity. He associated with Mahaprabhu's eternal associates, and then later, the Chand Kazi became his teacher. That's amazing. And then he facilitated, the translation of these Vedic literatures, important literatures. So, and before that, he was a really brutal character. He'd been a general in the previous Shah's employ, and he assassinated him and became the Shah himself. Right? So he was a tough character. But this Chand Kazi angrily came to one home in the evening, and when he saw kirtan going on, he broke a mrdanga and spoke as follows. Mrdanga bangiya loke kohite lagila. Right? What is that place called? What's the word for the place where the mrdanga was broken? Yeah, mrdanga banga. Right. Mrdanga banga. Because that word, bangiya, means breaking. Ekta kale kehanahi koila hindu yani ebeya udyama chalao kara balajani. For so long you did not follow the regulative principles of the Hindu religion, but now you are following them with great enthusiasm. May I know by whose strength you are doing so? Purport. It appears that from the aggression of Bhaktiar Khilji in Bengal until the time of Kazi, Hindus, or the followers of the Vedic principles, were greatly suppressed. Right. If you analyze the history of the Muslim occupation, invasion and occupation, it's said that during those 500 years, 80 million Hindus were killed. 80 million. They used to collect Brahmins' threads as signs of Brahmins killed and make big piles of them. Sometimes ears they collect. Demons. And others, they would just convert them forcibly. And by touching them, by raping the women, killing the men, making them eat meat. That's how all the Muslims exist in India today. It's not like they imported or they converted by, oh, I love this religion. They were forced, a Hindu, if you were contaminated in that way, you were considered unfit to be a Aryan or follower of Vedic religion. And so they converted large swaths of the population. So, like the Hindus in present-day Pakistan, practically no one could execute the Hindu religious principles freely. All right, Islam is not a religion of peace, no matter what propagandists try to tell you. It's a religion founded on jihad. It's intricately related with political ambition and gain, controlling the world, and they have a very specific agenda. And suppression of other religions, submission to the, what you could call the Dharma of Islam, is actually requisite. And at best, you got to practice your religion and pay a tax, but not openly practicing, quietly behind closed doors. And periodically they go on rampages and beat and kill other people and destroy their temples. So it's not an existing ancient temple in northern India to this day. The only ones that survive are in South India because they destroyed every one, or like the Taj Mahal, just converted it and made it into something Muslim. Formerly, the Hindus had not been straightforward executing their Hindu principles, but now they were freely chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Therefore, it must have been by the strength of someone else that they were so daring. Actually, that was the fact. Although the members of the so-called Hindu society had followed the social customs and formulas, they had practically forgotten to execute their religious principles strictly. But with the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they actually began following the regulative principles according to his order. That order is still existing, and anywhere and everywhere in all parts of the world, one can execute it. That order is to become a spiritual master under the direction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by following the regulative principles, chanting daily at least 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and preaching the cult of Krishna consciousness all over the world. What is that? Yare deke kare kaha Krishna upadesh. Amara agyaya guruhana tara edesh. All over the world. Chant and teach. Become a guru and teach this. So when it says be a guru, people can take that up in different ways. Being a guru means to instruct or teach. Anyone who gives shiksha is a kind of guru. Anyone who points the way, oh, this is a very good thing, pravartma darshika, that's also a kind of guru. One who teaches you in bhajan, that's a kind of guru, right? And of course, then there's Diksha Guru, which is much higher. Shiksha Guru, also. Diksha and Shiksha, topmost, to give qualified instruction and to bring somebody along in their bhajan to higher and higher states, right? And Diksha, offering connection and link. But when Mahaprabhu was saying that, preach. Take this into your heart and share it with others. And he said, if we adhere to the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we shall get spiritual strength without a doubt, and we shall be free to preach this cult of the Hare Krishna movement and not be hampered by anyone. Right? Which, during Srila Prabhupada's time, there was a great deal of attack going on. We were always getting caught on Sankirtan, thrown in jail. They're rounding up the Sankirtan parties, putting them in jail for a day. In Australia, this is going on constantly till they just got tired of locking the devotees up and seeing them out there the next day. They just gave up. But in some places it was really severe what they would do. Anyway, there's a million Sankirtan stories. So Kazi goes on, no one should perform Sankirtan on the streets of the city. Today I am excusing the offense and returning home. So I'm being very merciful and kind. You can't practice your religion, of course, but I'm not going to punish you for it. Just go back to normal. So Srila Prabhupada said, such orders stopping Sankirtan in the streets of the world's great cities have been imposed upon members of the Hare Krishna movement. We have hundreds of centers all over the world, and we have been specifically persecuted. In Australia. In most cities of the Western world, we have been arrested many times by the police. But we are nevertheless executing the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting on the streets of all the important cities, such as New York, London, Chicago, Sydney, Melbourne, Paris, and Hamburg. We must remember that such incidents took place in the past, 500 years ago, and the fact that they are still going on indicates that our Sankirtan movement is really authorized. For if Sankirtan were an insignificant material affair, demons would not object to it. Right? No one objects to buskers and street musicians. Oh, very nice. Oh, very nice. I mean, they may regulate it a little bit, get a license, but certainly, it's part of our culture. It makes our city pretty. But Sankirtan? The demons of the time tried to obstruct the Sankirtan movement started by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Similar demons are trying to obstruct the Sankirtan movement we are executing all over the world, and this proves that our Sankirtan movement is still pure and genuine, following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, we took great pride in flaunting that law. Srila Prabhupada came at a very interesting time. This is all Krishna's arrangement, because at that time, my generation, was anti-authority, anti-authoritarian. There was the sense of a revolution, cultural revolution. Now, it took many forms, and mostly it was just cheaters, riding on the backs of gullible hippies. But the mood was there, right? We don't want this, anymore. We want something new, these old values. And so the devotees that came to Srila Prabhupada had that feeling very strongly and were also inclined spiritually. They wanted to see a different paradigm. And so we're very happy to go out and preach that paradigm. And because of that activity, Srila Prabhupada infused his disciples with a great deal of Shakti and power, far beyond our own basic adhikar and eligibility. This was because he was Nityananda Avesh. He was empowered by Nityananda and had that same extraordinary compassion flowing through him that he injected into his disciples as well. It wasn't our power in any way, shape, or form. It was the extraordinary current of Srila Prabhupada's devotion that caused all this to happen. Now the Kazi goes on. The next time I see someone performing such sankirtan, I shall certainly chastise him by not only confiscating all his property, but also converting him into a Muslim. And this also went on. It came to the point of deprogramming. There were these people that came up and made a living of kidnapping devotees. They were paid by the parents, and they would kidnap them, sequester them away in some hidden place, some cabin somewhere, and for days on end deprive them of sleep and harass them and do so many things to try to get them, make them not, they wouldn't allow to eat. You want to eat meat, right? And they'd commit so many offenses to them. They'd bring in women to seduce the men. You know, there's so many things. Ted Patrick is one of these guys. And in the courts of law, there was even a case that went to the state Supreme Court in New York, whether Hare Krishnas were a cult or a religion. A cult. They wanted to declare us a dangerous cult, right? That has to be legally suppressed. But the ACLU, at that time, they helped us a lot in all these airport cases. We did one in St. Louis also. And this guy who's still alive today, I don't know if you know who Alan Dershowitz is, but very famous lawyer, and he took the lead on the case, and they're bona fide religion, Hare Krishnas. They proved it went back thousands of years. And this kind of information, the contemporary information from Mahaprabhu's time, was very critical in proving this. Right? Academics also spoke on our behalf. So in Srila Prabhupada, he explains this after hearing the threat of this Kazi, we'll take your property and we'll convert you. He says, Prabhupada says, to convert a Hindu into a Muslim was an easy affair in those days. If a Muslim simply sprinkled water on the body of a Hindu, it was supposed that the Hindu had already become a Muslim. During the transition of the British in Bangladesh, during the last Hindu-Muslim riots, many Hindus were converted into Muslims by having cow's flesh forcibly pushed into their mouths. Hindu society was so rigid at the time of Lord Chaitanya that if a Hindu were converted into a Muslim, there was no chance of his being reformed. Right? In this way, the Muslim population in India increased. None of the Muslims came from outside. Social customs, somehow or other, forced Hindus to become Muslims with no chance of returning to Hindu society. Up until this day, that's been the case. You're not allowed to convert from a Muslim back into a Hindu. If you convert from Muslim religion, the Muslims will kill you, and the Hindus, so-called Orthodox Hindus, would not accept you. But now in South India, there's a group of Hindu nationalists which have begun the reconversion of Muslims back into Hindus, saying that Muslims have converted us for so much time, now we're going to accept them back. Why not? And that's because of the influence of Mahaprabhu, actually. So, Emperor Aurangzeb also inaugurated a tax that Hindus had to pay because of their being Hindus. Thus, all the poor Hindus of the lower class voluntarily became Muslims to avoid the tax. Because they were Dalits and poor farmers, they were really outside of the respectable portions of Hindu society anyway. They had nothing to gain from that. But if they allied themselves with the Muslim, which were controlling, then they would be uplifted economically and otherwise and get some respect. The Christians did this after the British, especially in South India. They would create schools, and they would tell the poor people, oh, we'll give you education, we'll get you a job, we'll bring your status up. You just convert to be a Christian, and then you'll be respectable. And they'd see the wealthy British respected in society, and that's how the Brits did it, right? Very effective. Right? In Chand Kazi threatened to convert the people into Muslims by the simple process of sprinkling water on their bodies. After saying this, the Kazi returned home, and the devotees, greatly shocked that they were forbidden to chant Hare Krishna, submitted their grief to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's what will start tomorrow. Lord Chaitanya will say, go perform Sankirtan. Today I shall kill all the Muslims. Woo! This is a great pastime, and it's described also very nicely in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. But it's such a important pastime, turning point, actually, foundational pastime. And we're going to hear another description of it here. It's great. It's great. All right. So we'll stop here. Offer our obeisance to Srila Prabhupada, bold, fearless Srila Prabhupada, and to Srila Gurudev, all the acharyas in our line, Panchatattva, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivas, Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda, and all the Sambha Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.